virtual events feature tonight, and we'd like to acknowledge the traditional caretakers of these lands here. We are on Pueblo lands. We'd like to acknowledge the ancestors from the lands you all come from, and we'd also like to definitely acknowledge the caretakers of the land. Indigenous Ways is dedicated to bridging cultural exchange with people globally, and we really appreciate you stopping in, either watching live or listening to our recordings that we started just about 8 months ago and have archived at this time over 60 virtual events. So we'd also like to ask you to consider making a donation to our end of year campaign, which will keep us going into the new year, supporting our end of year campaign that will support the artists, the musicians, the presenters, elders, wisdom keepers, and ASL interpreters. You can go to our website, IndigenousWays.org. That's IndigenousWays.org, where you will see our banner. It's very user friendly. End of year campaign. Thank you very much. This evening, we are beyond psyched. We have the one and only Pam Houston. Pam Houston writes, speaks from a place of the heart that very few people dare to tread, and that is the absolute truth. Pam Houston is a major ally for many writers that have come out of the Institute of American Indian Arts, the MFA writing program, where she has mentored the likes of Tommy Orange and Teresa Mailot and several other people. And Pam is just absolutely amazing. Her walk on this planet, she's leaving a light footprint. She lives in the country, off the grid, and loves the land, loves animals, loves people. And she is one of our greatest allies at the Institute of American Indian Arts. We love and cherish Pam Houston. Everybody, put on your seatbelts, buckle up, get ready for the ride of your life tonight. Welcome, Pam Houston. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Tosh. It's wonderful to be here. And of course, the teaching at IAIA has been a great gift to me. And it's such an honor and a delight to work with those writers. So it's wonderful to be here. Thank you for doing this series. I have my own nonprofit. We're doing a series. I heard you say you're the 67th artist. That's how I feel. I was like, okay, this is 49 since the pandemic began. So I know how much work it takes, and I know how much effort and love. And I also know how much it's helping people get through and feel like they're connected and talking about important things. What I would love to do tonight is I'm going to read to you 7 very short essays or prose pieces, and they each go with a photograph. When the pandemic began in March, a good friend of mine who's a photographer asked 50 people she knew to do this project with her, where she would assign us a word each day, and we would go outside with our cell phones or our cameras and take a picture, and then come inside and write some words about that picture. And we all did 20 words during the month of April, and it was terrific. It gave me focus and an outlet to emote and to hope and to grieve during the early stages of the pandemic. And I've kept doing them, except now I sort of assign myself my own words. So these 7 words tonight are words that I assigned myself, and they each have a photograph with them. We'll get the screen set up so the interpreter can be seen. I believe that will work. So we'll make sure that's all in place. All right. there, and we can all see the interpreter. Looks good. Thank you for interpreting. I really appreciate your time and your effort here. So this is not one of the photos that I wrote about. This is a photo that I just happen to love. And it when these 7 essays were published in a new journal called Air/Light that just came out from Southern California, new journal doing beautiful work, really important work. This was the title page. So I put it up there just because I love looking at it. And I thought you might like looking at it too. So the first image, the word was amend. And this is a photo of some burned aspen trees from the West Fork fire in 2013. Amend. I used to believe until much too recently that there was someone or something that looked out for me whenever I veered dangerously close to trouble. I didn't know whether it was God or some other collective good or my dead friend Shelton or the ghost of the woman who raised me, whose name was Martha Washington, come from the other side to pluck me up out of danger and set me down safely in the nick of time. Recently, I have come to understand that what I thought all this time was a benevolent spirit was maybe just white privilege. I have lived for 27 years in a valley where people have more guns than children, more guns than cars, more guns than books, even Bibles, more guns than bags of potato chips, more guns than 10-gallon hats. I used to know why I lived here amidst these mountains and forests in this beautiful valley of 10,000 guns. But after Donald Trump got elected, I forgot. When I was in the 4th grade, I got caught stealing a candle in the shape of a cat from Spencer Gifts. And not only did no one kneel on my windpipe or shoot me 7 times in the back and leave me paralyzed, I wasn't even arrested. I was taken into the back room, where amid boxes full of lava lamps and psychedelic posters, I received a stern talking to by a security guard before the manager called my parents to come and take me home. I expect I may die soon, not from COVID-19 probably, as I've already had it, and hopefully not even from the heart and lung damage I have sustained from it. I think I might die here in this valley at the end of a gun, held in the hands of a man who believes it is his right to shoot an outspoken woman because the president or Tucker Carlson or Laura Ingraham told him so. If that sounds grandiose, and it does, I can hear it. All I can say is that I have seen the bullet leave the barrel repeatedly in slow motion, have seen the face behind the gun with its patchy sideburns, plump cheeks, and tiny eyes in recurring dreams that send my heart rate soaring. By being an outspoken woman in the valley of 10,000 guns during this fascist takeover of the United States of America, I have made myself a target. And yet, I can't ever seem to shut up. Because to be silent after the life I have been privileged to lead as a cisgendered Caucasian woman, a very good life by any measure, would be, and I say this as a non-religious person, sinful. Toni Morrison once said that if you find yourself free, it is your job to reach your hand down and pull someone else up to freedom. I am only one woman living in the valley of 10,000 guns, but I have a platform, and one of my jobs is to use it, that and to help my students get their beautiful books into the world. I was raised by a malignant narcissist. I know what it is to be helpless in the face of daily terror, daily rape, a broken femur, permanent physical and psychological damage, to be helpless in the face of a bully and a system that never believes the woman or the child. Between the tyranny of my father's house and the tyranny of the Trump presidency, I had 41 beautiful years full to the brim with freedom. I don't mind so much that the bill is coming due.
Beautiful, Pam. Thank you.
Thank you. This is called Horse. My new horse, Benjamin, likes to take baths in the stainless steel water trough that is meant for drinking. The same water trough that my older, possibly dying horse, Deseo, has been afraid of all his life. While Deseo has spent nearly 30 years sneaking up on that trough as if it is about to make a fast move on him, Ben runs straight at it and dunks his head all the way to his ears. He lifts one leg up and over the 2-foot side, kicks roughly half the 100 gallons over his flank until he is soaked, then gracefully switches legs and uses the rest of the water to soak his other side. He finds a nice dusty spot and drops, rolls on his back and kicks his legs in the air. Then he lurches to his feet and shakes so hard his teeth rattle. Ben came to me because he needed a new home and I needed a horse in my life that wasn't dying. He is big for a quarter horse, 17 hands, a dark bay who looks like somebody hurled a bucket of white paint at his left shoulder. Every morning when I come outside with the carrots and apples, he makes a noise like a Harley Davidson outfitted with glass packs, idling. If I don't close the barn door quick enough, he ducks his head and follows me in, turns his big body around in all the tight spaces, offers to assist me in throwing the hay. When I give him his grain in a shallow rubber feeder, he doesn't mind sharing it with Isaac, the mini donkey, or a chipmunk or a ground squirrel, or the magpie that often perches on his broad rump to eat insects. Ben seems not to be startled by anything, whereas Deseo crowhops and spins every time the barn creaks or the wind blows. In a few weeks or months, I will have to put Deseo down, because no matter how much I soak and soften and pulverize his food, he is 32 and has run out of teeth, which is what happens to horses when they live to be old. He is not lame or blind or otherwise uncomfortable. He just doesn't have enough meat on his bones to last the winter. He will leave Benjamin and Isaac to cavort around this 120 acres until the snow gets too deep and they commit to the barn and the little pasture to the south of the barn, where the wind is blocked and the sun warms the ground all winter. Every animal I have ever cared for has had something important to teach me, and Ben's arrival in the summer of 2020, this summer of so much death and fear, serves as a reminder that carrots and apples are cause for celebration, that a magpie on your back works better than fly spray, and that a scary water trough, looked at correctly, is an excellent opportunity for a bath. This word is west. A male friend asked what I had been thinking about lately, and I said, the feminization of the myth of the American West. The look on his face was 1 part condescension, 2 parts disgust, or that is what I imagined from the tone of his voice, because we were talking on the phone. He said, that's a little too academic for me, which made me laugh. I have been accused of a lot of things in my life, but never of being too academic. Some years ago, when I visited the fracking fields of North Dakota, I saw nothing but men in trucks and fast food restaurants erected so quickly they hadn't even paved their parking lots. I followed a man in a truck for 100 miles along a 2-lane highway between Killdeer and Williston, watching him flick cigarette after cigarette into the dry September grass. The beat of a Smash Mouth song reached back and curled inside my window. His bumper sticker read, "I heart crack whores." "It's just that I've been thinking," I said to my friend. "The stories you guys carry around all day might not be all that sustainable anymore. You know, the whole break the horse, tame the land, kill the Indian, save the man, frack her till she blows kind of ethic. Those stories might not be working out so well for the rest of us." Only after he hung up on me did I realize my hands were shaking. Right after that, I realized he had never actually been my friend. This one is possible. When you are a dog, all things are possible. That the human might give you the hamburger right off her plate. That the human might take you for a walk, even though she took you an hour ago. That the human might go away forever, or that she might come home and never leave again. That a bull elk might pop out of the trees at any minute. That those little brown birds that fly low to the ground might not elevate themselves sufficiently this one time. That the eviscerated squeaky toy might once again find its voice. The human might stop to pet you on her way down the hall. She might this night invite you into the bed with her. It might not be too smoky tomorrow to go for a hike. And on the hike, there might be blueberry treats and squirrels and a creek still running even this far into the drought. Or if there is no hike, she might ask if you want to go for a ride in the car. She might or might not pass the turnoff to the vet. But if she does, she might drive instead down the road that leads to the lake. At the lake, she might throw the stick for you. She might throw the stick for you 100 times. She might throw the stick for you so many times you'll wish only a little bit and with one part of your brain that she would stop. But you can't let her see that, because if she wants to keep throwing the stick, you know it is your job to retrieve it. You promise yourself that if she throws the stick 1,000 times, you will continue to retrieve it. There is no amount of times she could throw the stick where you would let her down. Later, when you are back home, the human might look at the news and cry, as she does these days so often. She might lay on the couch with you and put her head on your flank. When she closes her eyes, you close your eyes too and tell her with your mind that all things are possible, that the bad guys can't win forever, that even at the vets, you sometimes get cookies, that love, and this you are absolutely sure about, has always been stronger than fear. This is Renew. My vet, Dr. Howard, says sheep are born looking around for a place to die. And it's true. I have lost many sheep over the years in a lot of different ways. One ram got cast up against the barn. That's rancher talk for being stuck. So stuck you die. Another died of a twisted gut. One ewe caught pneumonia after the stress of a routine shearing, and something that was probably nose bots killed another. A few years back, we were stalked by a 300-pound black bear for the whole month of May, and by the 1st of June, I had 9 dead sheep and only 3 living ones. And one of those, Jordan, had her head inside the bear's mouth long enough to have 4 holes in her neck, big enough for me to insert an entire index finger. And yet every April, no matter how diminished our numbers, a lamb or 2 or 4 are born. Sometimes they are a little bit premature, and I have to hang out in the barn for a couple of nights, keeping them warm, force feeding them with a bottle, and convincing the ewe that the baby is worth trying to save. Tank went from nearly starving to death on day 2, losing the use of his back legs, a sure sign, to ramming the holy hell out of the water trough on day 7, which qualifies around here as a raging success. The lambs smell like lanolin and hope, And when they leap for joy out in the pasture, twisting their little bodies into 1.5 gainers over the top of the tall grass, it's hard to remember that anything bad is happening. That 200,000 people and counting, for example, are senselessly, unnecessarily dead. Today, we have so much fire smoke in the air from the 8 states that are burning to the west of us that we have donned our COVID-19 masks to feed the animals, which feels convenient for a second. 7 years ago, 119,000 acres on 3 sides of my ranch burned in the largest fire in southwestern Colorado history. I took my friend Maggie hiking in the burn last week, and when she told me that walking among the burned trees made her sad, I realized I no longer saw them. I saw the fireweed, the baby spruce, the regenerated stands of 1 million skinny 6-year-old aspen trees. I took a minute to ponder whether my myopia was a sign of resilience or denial, to think about the fine line between being honorably optimistic and dangerously naive. Again and again, the world asks us to see the beauty and the terror, to hold the wonder and the grief together, to learn once and for all that they are 2 sides of the very same coin. This one is called Cluster. When shelter in place began, I bought 8 4-week-old pullets from a lady in Walsenburg, Colorado, about a 3-hour drive from here. We met in the parking lot of the Safeway. It resembled a drug deal. The pandemic was new. Everyone was masked. Nobody wanted to hang out for very long. She handed me a cardboard box without speaking. I could feel the warmth of the chicks' bodies through the sides. When I got home, it turned out there were 9 chickens instead of the 8 I'd paid for, but one of the 2 orange birds had very large feet. I named him Rooster, and now he crows nonstop from 7 in the morning till 9 in the morning, which, as roosters go, is a pretty good deal. It was too cold to put 4-week-old chicks in the barn in April, so I raised them in a stainless steel horse trough in the guest bedroom. Even though it was a giant trough, they all clustered at one end, not for heat, I don't think, but for comfort. Each morning until they were 10 weeks old, I would put them back in their cardboard box and carry them out to the part of the barn where they would eventually live, along with the Icelandic sheep. And every day at sundown, I would scoop them back into the box and return them to the guest bedroom. I named one of the chicks Insanity because she was the hardest to catch and spent much of her time outside running around in circles. I named another Karen because she was white and screeching all the time. My favorite right from the start was Little Grouse, named for her colors and the intricacy of her markings. She was calm and sweet and is still, all these weeks later, the smallest bird. Soon they will begin laying as many eggs as we can eat, and that will make us feel like we have COVID-19 ingenuity. Last week, it was uncommonly hot in the 90s. When I first moved here 27 years ago, before anyone I knew had said the words climate change, the oldsters in town started talking about the end of the world if the temperature got to 80. Today, it's supposed to snow 14 inches. That's a lot for the first week of September, and it will likely send many of the people who have been living all over this country in their motorhomes all summer back to wherever they came from. It is supposed to get down to 13 degrees overnight, and my chickens will be tested for the very first time. It's 120 degrees in San Luis Obispo, 130 in Death Valley. Fires are raging up and down the West Coast, which is a cluster of a different kind. I read yesterday that soon much of the southwestern United States will be uninhabitable by humans, which will at least be nice for the coyotes and the lizards and the snakes. What would happen if we asked those folks in their motorhomes, which get 1.5 miles per gallon, to park them permanently? I think we know the answer. Just think about what happened when we asked people to put a thin piece of cloth across their faces because 200,000 of their countrymen had died. The president said today that the generals want to start and accelerate wars to keep the companies that make the bombs happy, which was a thing we all knew, but still so funny to hear it from his lips. I believe that is what we call speaking with impunity. Another cluster. A 17-year-old boy's mother drove him across a state line so he could murder 2 unarmed protesters with an automatic weapon he is not old enough to own. Show of hands. How many of us actually prefer to have untrained teenagers patrolling our streets with weapons of war? The orange man is always speaking with impunity. Unlike my rooster, he never stops crowing and has zero COVID-19 ingenuity. I want to be like little grouse, but I lean by nature toward insanity. Somebody, somewhere, sound the alarm. And this is the last one. This is called resolve. Some days I wonder how many of us have been raised by malignant narcissists. I think the answer is probably a lot. It is to you, my fellow survivors, that I am speaking in this essay. I know that when we were too little to do anything about it, to free ourselves of the tyranny, it sucked. But tell me if it is the same for you. When we finally did free ourselves, if we did, and I did, and if you were reading this, I'm guessing you did too, life was glorious. Even more glorious, I might argue, though I would be open to be proven wrong, than it was for people who were raised by loving and generous adults. When I left my parents' house at 17 to go to college at Denison University, I walked out of a dungeon of gaslighting, violence, and fear and into a garden of humanism, good works, and critical, compassionate thought. If someone had dragged me from Denison back into the hell of my parents' house, I would have chewed off my own forearm to escape. But no one did. And there was not one day in the 40 years between my departure for college and the last election, this 2016 election, that I didn't remember to be grateful I was free. Now I am back in my childhood home with my 330 million brothers and sisters, which includes you, dear survivor. I bet at first you were amazed to find yourself there. Is it Margaret Atwood who coined the phrase, the unexpected, inevitable? Our passports have become useless documents. Our government is systematically killing us to the tune of more than 1,000 per day and destroying our institutions with a velocity and efficiency that even I, who saw it coming, would have not believed. Our freedoms are being challenged and stolen one by one, and we are on the verge of losing the ability to speak out, to make art, even to dream of a better way of life. For me, and I would guess for you, it is neither childhood nor the president that is the shocker, but the 40 intervening years of freedom. And I'm here to tell you that it's us, the children who were raped in the shower, who had their bones broken, who had cigarettes put out on their hands. We are the ones who were born to rise to this moment in which we find ourselves. It is easy to gaslight a child, shockingly easy to gaslight a country. But I got out, and so did you, my fellow traveler. And what we understand, all the way down to our bones, is that the cruelty is and has always been the point. Surviving our families of origin took all our ingenuity. It offered us a glimpse of our own power, and we knew we were unstoppable. That is why you and I are so important to this battle. We have learned to think one step ahead of the malignant narcissist, and will chew off our own arm to get out of his trap. We have arrived at the moment of the unexpected inevitable, and this time we have each other. Come, let's rise together and reveal all that we have learned.
All right. Oh, wow. Beautiful, 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 powerful. All right. Thank you so much. That was just, woo. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Powerful truth, everybody, for us tonight. Pam's words. Pam is a prolific writer. This is what she does. I want to say 24 hours a day, but she does need to get some sleep in there sometimes. And she's got a whole bunch of animals and land to tend to and lots of speaking engagements. So want to say thank you, Pam. Thank you for your bravery. Thank you for your boldness, your courage, your honesty. Just we're so honored to have you, and you will be in our archives for people that missed this tonight. So just wanted to let you all know that Pam is having her own writing series going on. Please support her and what she's doing at writingxwriters.org. I think I said that right. And this is our new world, everybody. This is what people are doing to stay connected, to stay sane, to have some kind of freedom from feeling isolated and kind of left out of a life we once knew. So this is the new norm, and this is what we're doing. So please do support Pam, and you can always go to her website as well, and she's got plenty of books that you could purchase. And I just wanted to mention this coming Saturday, we have our concert series that's happening at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We have our traditional uh, beautiful Navajo sister, Talaba Begay. She is just gorgeous. She's a traditional woman, raises her daughter, lives with her grandmother, and she has the most exquisite voice. And she has opted to stay traditional and live in the old way and continue to carry that on through her song and her walk. So we're really excited to have Talaba. And as always, thank you, our ASL interpreters. And our wisdom circle next week, we have our beautiful sister who is from Santa Fe. Her name is Cassandra Perez. She is an amazing rafter, activist, mother. She's beautiful. She's profoundly deaf. She speaks her mind. She's an artist and she lives out in the country and raises her kids. And we just love her so much. So we're so excited to have our little sister, Cassandra Perez, very bold woman. And as you can see, right above me is IndigenousWays.org. And below me, you can see every single social media site you can think of. And we would love for you to share this recorded video with everyone you know, which will also be available in the next 48 hours on our website. There you will be able to find the other 60 plus Indigenous and allied presenters and artists. So while you're at it, please do subscribe to our weekly newsletter at IndigenousWays.org. Below me is all our social media page. Please like and subscribe as well. And gratefully, all virtual events have ASL interpreters and the best, in my opinion. And I do know a little bit about this world. And these are free. So there's a picture of our beautiful sister, Cassandra Perez, that we're excited about. And we want to thank our sponsors that make this all available for us. Native American Advised Fund, Santa Fe Community Foundation, National Endowment of the Arts, Westaff, Westaff Cares, New Mexico Arts, New Mexico Humanities Council, and National Endowment of Humanities. Thank you all. We'd like to thank our board members who are, some of them are with us tonight, we can see, and everybody on Facebook and Instagram that have joined us. Thank you all as well. And so we're going to just go ahead and mention our donation page, which is really easy. You can do it on PayPal. You can do it an old-fashioned way. Go to our website, super, super user-friendly. Please donate. This is not the fun part of running a nonprofit, but we've got to keep this going. So this is what we do. This is our end-of-year campaign. We want to keep this going next year. So this is really exciting. At this time, I want to invite anybody that wants to come in and talk to Pam Houston this evening before we call it a night. And turn on your cameras and unmute your microphones and social media. You're welcome to type in some words and I can pass them on for you. So, who would like to get started tonight?
Well, I'll give everyone a chance to get on just by mentioning one other thing that might interest this group. Just in October, I had a new book come out with the environmental activist Amy Irvine, and the book is called Airmail. And Amy and I were asked very early in the pandemic by Orion magazine to write letters back and forth during shelter in place. And we were only supposed to write about 3,000 words worth of letters for Orion. But once we started writing, we had never met. But, we have a lot of things in common, great love of the land, and we've spent a lot of our lives fighting for it. And a lot of other things. We live on either side of the Continental Divide in Colorado, only probably 75 miles as the crow flies, but like 5 hours as the car drives. And we started to write back and forth and very quickly started to form this sisterhood, kind of talked each other out of despair and talked each other into action and to doing everything we could prior to the 2020 election. And so we kept writing is the long and short of it. And by the end of May, we realized we kind of had something with these letters. Like, not only were we documenting the time, but we were calling people to action and, figuring out our own activism and figuring out our own privilege and figuring out, what it meant to have access to all these beautiful lands when so many people were suffering. And in any case, so we made this book, and a very small press in Utah called Torrey House Press, and their motto is Voices for the Land. They published it, and they published it very quickly so that it might get out before the election and make some small difference. And so anyway, it's available at Torrey House Press or at your favorite independent bookstore, definitely available in Albuquerque and Santa Fe at the independent bookstores. So it was a cool project. And, we're writing letters again now for the second round of, whatever battles are ahead. But I'm happy to answer any questions you have about what I read or anything else.
All right. Thank you. The floor is open. Whoever wants to talk, just raise your hand and go for it.
Christine, is that Christine's hand?
Yeah. Pam, I wanted to tell you how moved I was by your powerful, powerful writing, and to thank you for what you did. And I loved how you used pictures and words. It just blew my socks off.
Well,
thank you. It's really wonderful. I'm glad you're writing, and I hope you will continue writing, because your writing really makes a difference.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm really loving the form. I think there's silver linings to COVID, awful as it is. And one of the silver linings is, and this has been true to so many other writers and artists I've talked to this year, we're not so inclined to do what we're supposed to do anymore. Like the whole trajectory of like what New York wants from us or what our publishers want from us. And, I've loved taking photos all my life. It's been a way that I calm down, and it's been a way that I see, and it's been a way that I honor the beautiful things I've gotten to see. And I don't have big ambition for my photos. It's always just been a thing I've kept private for me. And that said, this form of a photo and a short essay, I'm just loving it. And it's easy. I mean, nothing's easy, but it feels easy. It feels like exciting and not like labor, and and so I'm really loving the form, and I'm going to keep at it.
Great.
I'm going to do 10 more coming up here, maybe over the holidays. I do them in kind of bursts, and I just, like I said, one of the things about all the threats we're facing, it's like there may not be as much rule following now, there may not be as much rule following as there's been.
And I really appreciated the bravery in your writing too, particularly about writing about standing up and speaking out, even when you live in the valley of guns. We live out in the country, and there's a lot of rednecks out here. And I was recently in one of the small restaurants downtown, and there were a bunch of men in there bragging about how many guns they had, and I was,
Yeah.
just flabbergasted, that there's such pride in gun ownership. Well,
It's
surprised and not surprised,
It's a strange culture, I mean, all of the mass shootings,
Yeah.
it's there's a lot of things I don't understand right now. I don't understand why we keep letting that happen. I don't understand why people won't put a piece of cloth over their faces. Like, there seem to be so many things that would be in our best interest that we're not doing. And it makes me very sad, but I also think this is a time of big, big learning. I feel like every day I wake up and I say, what am I supposed to learn today? What am I supposed to learn? And I guess I could say I've tried to do that all my life, but it feels like an intense period of learning right now. So maybe we're learning something, even though it's not always showing yet.
Yeah, I believe we are learning something. And your writing is a testimony to it. So thank you, and thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Who wants to go next?
Okay.
Thank you very much, Christine. Great comment. And go ahead. This is my sister, Missy. We call her Missy.
Hi. Yes, Pam Houston. I have heard about you. And this is the first time I've had the pleasure to hear your readings, and I'm just totally blown away. I mean, everything I've heard about you is true. And, just like I remember when I went to a reading at IAIA, it wasn't this past year, but the year before, you read over there for the the conference that they do. And I know there were several people that were making a point. They wanted to go to hear you. And I'm just like, I'm gonna have to check into this and see what makes her so great, And so now I know, and I was just really touched and just really just profoundly moved and shocked, and just all the emotions that you emit from people when you do your readings, because it's so powerful. And I just, even that one sentence you had in that one point, that cruelty was the point. And we've seen history, how things have happened through history that we're supposed to learn from, and we're supposed to not repeat those things. You would think people would learn from it, but then you see things happening and history repeating itself, and those type of things continuing to perpetuate and happen in this world. And you're like, I know I do. I'm just like, gosh, haven't we learned from our history? We've grown so much from there. Why can't we move forward from the lessons learned and not continue to make those same mistakes again? And then I see like little miracles happen where people have, just sort of like, they're able to evolve and grow within themselves and find a higher place. And they reach that place from the things that they're seeing happen. And I realize that maybe that's part of it. And even what happened with right now in the political climate, a lot of the corruption and the greed and the power the power hunger of our leaders it was very apparent. It just came to the surface. There was no hiding it. No. I mean, everybody could see it. It was just, it was just so awful. And it's, I don't know. I can't talk like you, but I wish I could. But it just really was just the worst thing to have to read. And I remember, crying when I read the news, or just getting really depressed, but at the same time feeling compelled to stay informed and know what's going on, so that I can be prepared to take action if I have to, that type of thing. So your reading just kind of brought a lot of that up for me, and I'm just really glad to see things hopefully turn on to a better, a lighter way of us addressing things, a more decent way, respectful of one another, and just really caring for one another and working together as communities, instead of making our bottom line all about greed and all about power and all about oppression of others, and so that the minority can stay in that power. So thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to tell you about something I did this weekend. I had to drive from, I was in Santa Fe. I'm back home in Creed now, but I was in Santa Fe all last week, and I had to drive to Moab and back in a short amount of time. I had to drive to Moab on Friday, and I had to drive back on Saturday. And I drove on 550, that beautiful, beautiful road, past Zia and across the res and across the bridge at Bluff. And I, it was snowing, as you probably know. It was snowing both ways. It was snowing kind of hard on the way up, but it was snowing really hard on the way back. And I felt, I feel these days that if I don't take a little time each day to grieve what's happening here, what has happened here, I get sideways with myself. I can't really do my work. Like, I have to take a little bit of time to grieve. And so I thought, well, I have all these hours in this car, and I'm driving through this beautiful land. It's not my land. None of it is my land. But I felt like the land wouldn't mind if I spent a little time grieving and feeling all that moisture sinking into the earth and healing it, after such a dry year. And it was so much snow. I mean, there had to have been like 1.5 feet in Cuba. It was a lot of snow. And the roads were very bad for a while right after it got dark. And so I was going very slowly. And I was listening to this book, this beautiful, beautiful book by the poet of witness, Carolyn Forche. It's her memoir, and it's called What You Have Heard Is True. And it's about her time in El Salvador right before the war broke out there. It's such a beautiful memoir. I mean, I can't recommend it highly enough, honestly. It's so beautifully made. And so, I mean, she's just a writer. She's been to IA recently, within the last couple of years. She's a writer with so much heart. In fact, she made it possible. She made it possible for American women to write political poetry, basically. She moved that bar back in the late 80s, early 90s. In any case, it's about El Salvador, and it's about all the mechanisms of power, that led to that terrible, terrible tragedy and so many people being disappeared. And it's all the same, of course, it's all the same exact mechanisms of power that we're seeing now, that's taking a slightly different form. And so I just like reading that book, it felt like having Carolyn in the car with me. It felt like we were smoking together, though of course neither of us smoke anymore. It was like just listening to her voice, reading these stories, which on the one hand are terrible and also beautiful. And, these people who were trying really hard to save people's lives, and then seeing the monuments reach up into the low clouds and having the snowfall. Like, I think we all have to take time. I mean, I'm on the one hand, I'm recommending a book. On the other hand, I'm just saying, I think it's really important right now to take time to grieve and to to reckon inside ourselves with, both what's happening and, to look for hope and what might be possible now, as you say, Michelle, that all this stuff is so much more out in the open than it's ever been before. And I think a lot more people are seeing it. And I think the people in power, I think their hubris and their decision not to try to hide it anymore may come back to bite them. I certainly hope so. It's one of the things that makes me feel hopeful.
Thank you very much. Beautiful comment, Missy. Missy's a lawyer for the Navajo Nation, by the way, so you have a great voice, Missy. I saw Carlin's hand go up, and then afterwards, Christine and Donna. So go ahead, Carlin.
Hi, Pam. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Good. I just rushed to set this up, but I wasn't. I worked until right up at the top of the hour and was not able to join you at the beginning of your lecture. I apologize for that. But I did get in a good 15 minutes. It was very impressive. I really enjoyed how you write. As Christine said, yeah, your writing is very impactful. So thank you so much for providing me at least 15 minutes of that information. It was great. Um, um, I wanted to comment on grieving. Um, yeah, you had mentioned grieving, and I think it is so important to take time to grieve. We're all seeing things transpire in our country and other countries that are totally unbelievable. At least I would imagine to our audience here on this particular Zoom. It's just, it's beyond belief. We cannot believe what's happening. And then also it's just so blatant. It's incredibly blatant. Um, and that causes a lot of damage psychologically. It certainly has to me. Um, in addition to grieving, which we have to grieve just like we have to take time to heal. And that's basically what grieving is you get yourself a little space of time, where you can begin to heal and try to feel normal again. In addition to that, uh, uh, I myself have also been working on trying to develop coping mechanisms for these incredible things that are happening. Initially, uh, I used to just be in total shock, like, I can't believe this is happening. I just can't believe, and I would get myself quite worked up. Not too terribly long ago, I saw something on Facebook. Love Facebook, has lots of good messages, but it was uh, one of the coping strategies was that, and this came from a famous person. I wish I could quote that person. I bet you some of our members here today could perhaps tell you where this quote came from. But it was basically that we shouldn't really stress ourselves in trying to reason or make or reason with people that are situations that are not reasonable. In other words, you just kind of have to let it go, so to speak, when things are totally, totally unreasonable. And in my own head, I'm trying to fit them all together. I'm trying to, like, how do they think this way? How do they act? How could they possibly, express man's inhumanity to his fellow man? It's just incredible. But realizing that when people are not willing to reason, not willing to dialogue, they've taken a strong stance, and it really doesn't matter what you say or what you do. It's not going to change their opinions. And, the change has to come from within. It doesn't really come from other sources. It's given me some sense of peace, at least, to kind of let it go. Like when I see something so bizarre and incredible coming out of the top levels of our government, uh, I just have to let it go, because it's just it's not reasonable, and you can't make sense of it. So it's kind of like Jim Croce song about spitting into the wind.
Right, right.
What was Superman or something like that, I can't remember exactly, but it's completely futile. It's futile, and it's a waste of energy, and also it prolongs the stress and increases stress. So just thought I'd kind of share that because it's just kind of a coping mechanism, one of many that I've been looking for just to make sense. Being around you guys is so comforting and so wonderful because sometimes I think, is it me? Am I so far off? And then I find this wonderful world of individuals that say, you're not off. You're in this with the rest of us, and we're all trying to make sense of it, or at least trying to cope with it until change occurs. So, at any rate, didn't mean to talk that long, but thank you so much. 15 minutes I got to listen to. It was incredible. I look forward to hearing you again.
We love you, Carlin. Christine had her hand up. Christine, would you like to talk to Pam?
You mean
Yeah,
me
yeah,
No.
yeah.
or Christina?
Her,
Well, yeah, you.
Christina.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
Christina.
15.
All right. Real quick. It's been a pleasure to listen to your words. This is like my 5th Zoom meeting for today. It's just been one of those weird things because I'm retired and I shouldn't have this many Zoom meetings. But oftentimes there's no growth unless there's something to grow out of. And this horrid year has allowed us to have a better connection with Indigenous Ways because they're in Santa Fe and I'm in Ohio. Mm-hmm. And we get to participate every week and learn and hear from voices that I would never have an opportunity to know about. Last night, some friends invited us to listen to some people tell their stories, and one of these people was a poet laureate in my living room. I mean, this is an amazing gift. Right? So thank you for participating and doing your the Zoom things as well. I will say that that's a really big quarter horse at 17 hands because this one had a 14 hand quarter horse and he was kind of little, but 17 is really big.
He's really big. I thought he had to be like part thoroughbred or something. His legs are so long and he's also big bodied. I mean, he's of an imposing figure, but and he may be 16'3", but the woman who brought him here said he was 17. He's huge. He towers.
I call them the beefcake quarter horses.
He's a beefcake. He is a beefcake. That's exactly what he is. He's kind of got like an underwear model mentality.
Yes.
Exactly. I've seen those at the quarter horse show because it's usually held here in Columbus, Ohio. Mm-hmm. Canceled for 2020, probably 2021 also. And we have chickens, or we did until last year. So I can really relate to your chicken story as well. That's fun. As a lesbian feminist, your words just dig on in there and tell everybody what's what. So thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Christina and Donna. You got a beautiful space in Ohio. Thank you for welcoming us there too. I got a quick comment from Rachel Pablo, IA student, graduate. She says, Tosh, my question for Pam is, I find myself in a role of an accidental writer. I've been blessed to have attended the IAIA MFA symposiums in the past. Although my writing is art historical narratives, I respect craft, grit, and am learning the importance of framing a convincing argument. Is there a key element that will help this process? Question to Pam.
Well, I think I myself find my writing has gotten much more political and much more on point. There was a time in my life where I would have said, well, the best way to get people to care about the natural world, for example, is to paint really beautiful pictures of it, and then they'll see how valuable it is. Paint beautiful pictures with words in my case. But I'm starting to think that maybe people are a little thicker headed than I thought. Like I'm starting to think that maybe we need to speak more clearly about what has to happen. So, we're not all underwater 10 years from now. So, just to name one thing, or have burned into ashes or whatever. So, just in terms of the planet, basically, to name only one thing. And so I guess what I would say is that what you really want still are a lot of sensory, concrete, physical details in your work, because that's what moves people. What gets people invested are the particularities of your life, the physical particularities of your life. A reader engages more when their senses are activated.
Oh,
So
nice.
even if you're going to tell them something like to do, like go march in the street or whatever you might be about to tell them to do, you win them over by engaging their senses. And then they feel what you're feeling, or some version of what you're feeling about the thing you're describing, a fire, or the beautiful surface of the river, or the sandhill cranes coming into land in a pasture, whatever it is. And then you sort of got them. And then you can be persuasive, whatever you're trying to persuade them of, because you have won them to your side. And there is no better way to do that than to activate their senses and make the world come alive for them.
Thank you so much. That was for you, Rachel, sister from the Navajo Nation. Do we have any burning desires? We're coming to the top of the hour, and I'm very cognizant of our interpreters this evening. So does somebody want to say anything? Like Christina Bueno. Do you want to say anything, Christina? You're one of our weekly regulars.
Yes, I want to extend, Pam, my gratitude for sharing what you did. When I first got into the meeting, you were talking about being in the Valley of Guns, of all the men with all those guns. And I was looking on Facebook, and there was an advertisement for guns, and it said, the thrill a man has when holding his gun. And there was a Christmas tree behind him. Watch, let me pull that up and show it to you. Interesting ad.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, right? With a man holding his gun or his rifle, and the thrill a man deserves. So that means that they are advertising to relatives to purchase for maybe adults or kids in their family, maybe for mom, dad, for your wife. Just buy a gun for Christmas as a Christmas gift. And this is an ad from the 50s, and I'm vintage, right? I myself am vintage as well as my furniture. And so I saw this vintage ad, and I just saw that, and it really caught my attention about a man deserving that gun. And I thought, whoa, speak of the devil, right? And so I have to agree. Yes, quite often, right? That pride in gun ownership that they exhibit, or that is exhibited, is just so well known, right? And then you started talking about the sheep, and lambs are my favorite creature. I do collect stuffed lamb, and I love lamb. So
In New York City.
I found that interesting. And so mentioning all the sheep that you've had and the farm in your life, and I thought, they are like people. People are compassionate, but for animals, there's just even more compassion. And we just can't stand things happening to animals, and me specifically, just seeing them being killed or whatever injustices they have to suffer in comparison to the lives that humans live. I've witnessed people shooting and killing animals. I've seen it, witnessed it myself. And so this is why I've been a part of protests against gun. And I'm not saying to take people's rights away, but I am advocating for having safety measures in place. Like, for example, for purchasing AK-47s, I think that's what they're called, AK-47s, which are a instrument of murder, of mass murder. And so I've been a part of protests to curb or to limit ownership of that type of weapon, anyone that has an AK-47. But besides that, I'm very grateful for you sharing your message, Pam, and your story. And I also want to thank Tosh for hosting you here and having you here tonight. And I want to thank the awesome interpreters. I'm going to have to steal your interpreters for my ASL class one of these days, Tosh, next semester.
You know what, Christina Bueno, we love you. We want to get you down to Santa Fe, get you out of New York City when it's safe to do so. And absolutely, I think Cress, CRES, will be happy to talk to you. And of course, our beautiful Kaylee interpreter. We just have been blessed with the best interpreters on planet Earth, let me tell you. Unfortunately, everybody, we've got some more comments in Facebook, but we are out of time. And I just want to say a big thank you, shout out to Pam Houston, who has offered her writing fee tonight to be an honorarium in honor of our end of year campaign. So thank you so much, Pam. We really appreciate that. That's just, wow, you didn't have to do that. Thank you. That means a lot to us. We will want to check out what you're doing, because you are the best of the best, and your writing is the best of the best. And I have one regret about IAIA MFA program, and that's not getting you to be my mentor. I missed out. Oh, well, I'll have to join one of your Zoom events, and we'll go from there. Robbie Althouse, let's talk later on tonight. We love you all. Thank you all very much. Our interpreters, thank you very much. We love you. We've got Saturday. We've got amazing singer, songwriter, traditional storyteller, Tala Gay. Please join us Saturday. Everybody, it's 3:00 Mountain Standard Time, and everybody stay safe, wear your masks, and just think about the masks as a sacred big turquoise, like the medicine man said last week, Lorenzo Jim. He told us about this mask is about sacred intention. We wear it very carefully. We wear it very honorably. We walk with it with respect, integrity for those walking by us, and integrity for loving of ourself. So let's continue to do that. Let's give it up for Pam. Woo! Houston, that is. Stay safe, everybody. Love you all.
Can I just say one thing before we go?
Yes, please.
I want to say to the interpreters that it is always so moving to me to see my work interpreted. If I didn't have to look at the paper, I would have been watching you the whole time. It's really beautiful. So thank you for that. And the other thing I just want to say about my series on writing by writers, we've had many Indigenous writers on there: Kelly Jo Ford, Tony Jensen, Santee Frazier, Stephen Graham Jones, Abigail Shabbat Noyes coming up, beautiful poet, Inuit poet. So check those out in the archives. The archives are all there.
Nice.
So,
all right, everybody, give it up one more time for
all
Pam
right.
Houston,
Thanks,
the trainer of men.